What's up, everyone? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. And break down what's happening with the market going into next week as we have important developments on the charts, not to mention new changes in the economic calendar. But let me just mention that I am not a financial planner. So make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. Deposit $1,000 and you're guaranteed 15 in total. And the offer ends very soon in just about 5 days from now. Anyways, now let's talk about the market. So just notes that right now, as far as SPY goes, we have a nice double bottom like structure. We're seeing some buyers defending the charts. And we're seeing a bit of an uptrend that is starting to be respected right here. Now, we're looking pretty good so far. We're starting to see buyers once again returning. But the question is, what's going to happen for next week since we have some very important stuff? We have FOMC coming out next week. We have important jobs numbers. I'll be talking about all of that just to give you guys a heads up early on, not to mention some earnings, which are going to be pretty huge as well. So for Monday, okay, we don't really have much. We just have some bill auctions coming out. And I think that the market has potential to push if we break some resistance levels. But then for Tuesday, don't forget that we have the JOLTS job openings report. This is going to be very important for understanding employment. And it's also going to affect the Fed, especially on Wednesday, because on Wednesday, the first half of the day is going to be very, very minor as we just have Chicago PMI and such. And then things go crazy because we have the Fed interest rate hike decision. The market's expecting the Fed to keep rates the same. And then we have the FOMC meeting with a press conference at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So Jerome Powell's going to be giving his speech again. Can't wait to see what this causes for the markets on Wednesday. Thursday, we just have some manufacturing numbers and PMI coming out. These manufacturing numbers will be very important because it's the start of a new month, and it'll give us more insights on inflation. And then finally, we have on Friday the employment numbers, unemployment rates, not to mention non-farm payrolls. So we'll just have to see how things kind of progress from here. On top of this, I just want to mention that we have big earnings as well. On Monday, we have McDonald's. On Tuesday, we have SoFi, PayPal, AMD, and Microsoft. AMD and Microsoft will be two big ones, especially for semiconductors and for the entire tech sector. For Wednesday, we have Boeing in the morning, not to mention ARM and Meta. Meta is going to be a big one for Wednesday. Thursday, we have Amazon and Apple announcing their earnings. And then Friday, we have ExxonMobil, not to mention Chevron. So this is very important. We have a lot of big tech earnings coming out for the week, especially Meta, Amazon, Apple, and Microsoft. I can't wait to see what all of this leads to. So it's going to be very, very important. Make sure you're prepared for some high volatility. The big reactions are going to really come, I would say, between a Wednesday, that's going to be after AMD and Microsoft announce earnings, and then going into Friday. So for the second half of the week, that's when earnings are going to have a big effect on us, not to mention the FOMC meeting. So going back, I just want to mention that there's not really a whole lot coming out in terms of the options chain. I'm not really seeing much of a shift thus far. So things do get more serious though on August 2nd, since we have a high puts to call ratio. So I'll be paying attention to that. But I'm noticing that a lot of the max pains are above where we currently are, which makes me suspect we might see some upside. So what's the most likely possibility? It's very simple. Okay. We have a range on SPY or SPY. If we lose 542, SPY could easily start dipping back down to lower levels, all the way back down to fill this gap if 542 fails. If we break past 548 or very close to that range, I think we could easily start pushing up for not just 550.5, but 552 would be my target at least. So I think that there's a good chance of that happening. So what is more probable? What I like about SPY is the fact that this is forming kind of like a double bottom. So right here, we have like a double bottom. This is forming like a George W. That's what my friends usually call this pattern. A big George W is forming, and this oftentimes leads to more upside. So this is favoring a break. If we break 548, a continuation higher is looking more probable in my personal opinion. But watch your levels just for confirmation, just to be safe. I'll talk more about that later on. For Bitcoin, we're looking a little bit more bullish as well. This is kind of leading the way up. We actually got a nice bounce on Bitcoin. We're approaching this resistance at 68,000. I still think that we could be testing this and maybe even potentially try to break it. It's looking pretty bullish so far. Nvidia is just consolidating, not really doing a whole lot. If you zoom into the chart like this, you will see we're just stuck between 112 as support and 115 as resistance. And we've been stuck like this for almost 3 straight days with some exceptions. But you guys can see we've been stuck in this range for a long time. I'm hoping that Nvidia tries to base at this 112 area and tries to get a bounce. This may also depend on AMD's earnings, but so far Nvidia has potential to try to rebound if we base at that level. ES is looking more bullish, got a nice double bottom, trying to test structure right here. Might continue to try to push, especially next week. And we could even get closer to our 200 EMA at 55.58, so it has more upside potential. Looking at SPX, looks pretty good to me. We got a nice double bottom that formed. We actually held support, and we have this gap to fill above. If we manage to break above 54.90 around that area, I think we could fill this gap all the way up towards 55.57, and that actually aligns very well with ES. So that's actually a good sign. But just to be blunt, if we do end up losing 54.20, we could still come down to fill this gap down here. Not a promise. This is actually trying to push higher, so it kind of favors this upper gap to get filled. This is favoring upside, in my personal opinion. For Tesla, Tesla's holding up very, very well. The one thing we're mentioning about Tesla is that we could be forming kind of like an inverse head and shoulders. That's kind of sloppy looking, but it still works. This could be like a left shoulder here. This could be our head. This could be like a right shoulder. But watch for a test of 225. I think we're going to be testing 225 next week. If we break that, then yes, Tesla could push for the 230s again. We'll see if we end up breaking 225. So I do see a potential test coming soon. That looks more favorable to me. For NQ, we're holding support. So we have this trend line. See the white line? This was previous resistance. It became support, and we're actually bouncing off of that. If we bounce and break past 19,200, excuse me, 19,250, then yes, we can start pushing all the way up for 19,500. So there's a good chance this is going to try to continue to go higher. For the QQQ, we have a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure, and we have a nice double bottom that's kind of forming. This could lead to more upside if we start breaking past resistance at 466. But one thing worth mentioning is that the QQQ is not as strong as SPY currently. We actually have a bit of a, I would say, like a pennant that's starting to form right here. We're actually getting tighter and tighter on it. So if anything, this makes me suspect that we may just continue to tighten, and then we're going to be looking for a breakout next week. So we'll see which way this ends up breaking. I'm going to be very patient with this, especially during the pre-market. If we break that 466 resistance, this could try to bounce, and big tech earnings could affect this. Apple's looking pretty promising. We do have earnings coming up soon. We're just consolidating between 216 and 220. We got to break 220 to turn bullish. Otherwise, it's still consolidating. So I think we might just continue to consolidate. I think just like the QQQ, we're just getting tighter and tighter and tighter. So we're going to likely continue to do so in a trend just like this. So that's all I'm really seeing, at least for this right here. We might just continue to tighten. So going to give this some time just to see what kind of reaction we get going into next week, and we'll see how things go. So that being said, for a few more, the IWM is looking especially bullish. I think that this has the potential to break out towards 225. And if that breaks, we're heading up to these highs right here, all the way back up towards 227. So it might try to break those highs. It still looks bullish to me. For Coinbase, we're looking more bullish. If we manage to break past 244, I'll be looking for a push all the way up to the trend line, which is going to be around 248. But watch for confirmation of 244 breaks. If we lose support at 240, we do have a gap to fill down here, but this is favoring upside in my personal opinion. For Amzn has a nice accumulation structure. If we manage to break out, I'll be looking for basically 184. If that breaks, we'll push even higher. This is looking pretty good for a double bottom, but we need confirmation. We need to see this thing actually break past 184. We'll see. Earnings is coming up, so typically Amazon does like to push a bit approaching earnings. Meta is also trying to rebound. We have a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure that's forming. If we break past 468, I'll be looking for this thing to push all the way up into the 470s. 472 would be a potential target. I like the structure. I like this pattern, so it looks a little bit more bullish to me. This favors upside. Microsoft it looks like it's trying to favor upside. It's not that strong, though. I want to see it break past 427 at the very least. If that breaks, I'll be looking for 432 all over again. Watch and see if we can break past 427. It's still kind of like in a test phase. Same thing with Google. It hasn't broken resistance yet. I need to see it break past 170. Still kind of lackluster after earnings, so we'll see if 170 breaks or not, so I'll be very patient. Anyways, that's my quick update for now. I'll give you guys another update tomorrow and kind of talk about the bigger picture for SPY. But with that being said, I want to thank you all so much for listening. Please have a great day. Enjoy the weekend, and I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow on the next one. Thanks again, and peace out.